Hey, what's up everybody? I've been wanting to make a video about the recent This Week in Destiny update that came out from Bungie. Very late to the table on this. A lot of people have done some really great coverage, but there's some really interesting stuff here that applies specifically to players like me that I really wanted to focus on. So first of all, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Bungie because it seems like they were like, you know what, PvP players need some love. And so they just, threw us a fucking bone. So, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Thank you. Thank you for the bone. Destiny 2's PvP gameplay provides players a unique experience that can stand on its own. Yes. Yes, I've got clips. I don't know if I've still got active videos with that statement in there or similar statements in there. I've tried other games, Overwatch, Halo. They all feel flat. Like a lot of the first-person shooters that I've tried, they just feel flat. They don't have as much depth. There's something about the world building and how that then feeds into the PvP system, the multi-class system, the multi-subclass system, all the different guns and weapon sort of mods. There's so much depth to the gameplay, and it's so fast-paced, so rich, and there isn't anything else like it. And so there's been times where I've been honest, I've been tempted to leave, been trying to leave, because I've run into issues. Rewards. Like for a long time, like I'll just play hours and hours and hours of PvP, and I get like 2 or 3 little red, Crucible tokens that give me weapons that are not exciting, and that's all I get. And the only reason that I'm coming back and playing the game is because it's fun. Like the gameplay itself is fun. It is not rewarding. It has not, for PvP standalone players, it has not been rewarding for a long time. Trial, with the exception of maybe Trials. But Trials is not tuned for solo players, so we'll get into all of that. But anyway, yeah, it has a unique experience that stands on its own for sure. I don't like to play the PvE at all, but I still keep buying the expansions and the season passes. Why? Because the PvP experience is unmatched. You can't get it anywhere else. It is the best PvP experience out there, right? So anyway, this is awesome. Yeah, very true. But there's been some issues, and they basically go through and they sort of like address pretty much all of these issues, right? So maps actually was one of the things they talk about. I actually don't care about maps. Whenever they add new maps, it's like I have to spend a couple of weeks learning the map. To me, what moves the needle a lot more than new maps is new weapon archetypes, new weapon traits and sort of builds and things that you can do. So build crafting and then going and trying that in a map that you already know is super fun and super engaging and keeps me coming back. So, ways to get new weapons. Ways to get all the exotic weapons in PvP would be awesome. That's probably something we'll never have, but at least the ways to get really cool PvP-focused weapons in PvP is going to keep me coming back more than maps. But still, it's great. A lot of people do care about, seeing new maps, so that is cool. We want Crucible to feel at least as rewarding as PvE. Thank you. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm playing that much, I want to be able to get a badass weapon. Like if I've put in 3 hours of gameplay, I should have a fucking weapon to show for it, right? It just makes it feel more rewarding. Keep me coming back and gives me a reason to come in and engage. So that's awesome. The new Trials passes. I think this is awesome too. I've had trouble going flawless as a solo player. Also, I'm probably an average skill solo player. So realistically, in Trials, if you're solo, you have to be able to 1v3, which means that you have to be top 5% or better to be able to carry teammates consistently enough to go flawless. So I can win 3 games in a row. I think I've won 4 games in a row before, but I've never been able to win 7 games in a row, right? So this is interesting because there's a pathway now potentially for solo players to go flawless without, being able to necessarily be able to consistently 1v3. I think that's awesome, especially because I think another thing they've acknowledged here is that they tend to favor team play balancing. So they're focusing on team play. They say the worst thing they can do is make it better to solo queue. To me, I'll be honest, I feel like that's a little bit going against the grain. I think it's actually something that I wish there was a competitive mode for solo players. I wish there was a way to be able to really push yourself as a solo player. It'd be different if I had friends to play with, right? Or a team. But when you're going out and you're queuing up with the general public, unless you're really good, you're going to occasionally fumble. And Like, I don't even want to deal with the toxicity that's going to come when that fumble occurs, right? You don't have to deal with enough politics and finger pointing and blame shifting in my day job. Like, I don't want to deal with that at home. So as a solo player, I do wish there was a pathway for you to be competitive and play solo. If I'm willing to pay you, 60, 70, 80 bucks, what is it now for expansions? And then, 15 bucks plus the extra silver that I have to buy. Yeah, that's another thing. Just to get the season passes. And then I don't have like I should be able, there should be a mode. If you've got players who are willing to do that, why are you just like, why? And so anyway, some of that's being addressed again with this. So again, a huge thank you, but it has, like, you can feel it, right? It's definitely been a frustration of mine for a long time. So anyway, I'd love to see a solo focused play. They don't focus on solo play. That's fine. What I think Ferocity does is it gives solo players a chance, though. It gives you a chance, right, to potentially go flawless. And I think that's awesome. Persistence is also awesome. For me, I actually don't care about the adepts that much. I mean, it's nice to have the extra stats and stuff like that, and to know that it's an adept, but to me, the prestige really comes with going flawless, right? So I think Ferocity, the changes to Ferocity are super awesome because it might make it possible to go flawless. And so I think that's really cool. Sparrow Control, new mode, Sparrow Control. I don't know. I kind of want to just shoot stuff. I mean, I think it's cool that they're doing some new modes, but I think that the modes that they have work, again, with the exception of the fact that I'd love to see a solo player focused mode. I wish they wouldn't fight the grain on that so much. Sparrow Control, I don't want to ride my Sparrow. I don't. I just really don't. There's a lot of players who get into that. They have a lot of fun riding the Sparrow, and they're maybe the more social players. I just want to shoot shit. It's like, to me, it's like going to the range and then you unload a clip and then having to get back in your car between each clip. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to be fun. You know what I mean? Sandbox issues. Oh, by the way, sorry, interesting thought here I wanted to talk about, though, is it would be nice to see in those competitive playlists where you do have team play focus, a way to not be in chat but still strategize between matches. So maybe like you bring up like a 2D render of the map, like in between rounds, and players can like point at point and click dots. I don't know how you do it on a controller, find a way, but to like mark, sort of routes that they would like to take, and then another player can maybe like downvote it, or something. And they could like, maybe it's just like a downvote, upvote thing. So like they downvote it and it's like, so if the player's like, I don't want you to go that way. And you can still say that's the way you're going to go, but they're like, I don't like that idea. You know what I mean? And yeah, ultimately you disagree. Maybe they're dumb. Maybe you're dumb. Maybe you're both dumb. It doesn't matter. But the point is at least they have some idea of what you're going to do. And then they can either work with that or they can fucking not and throw the round. It just doesn't really matter. But the point is, it's a way to sort of communicate without having to worry about toxicity. By the way, the whole like commendation system at the end of the match, I wish Bungie would get rid of that because it's just used for toxicity, right? Like I think I've said this before, but I want to say it again because it frustrates me. If you have a bad match, and I think we all have bad matches sometimes, the last thing you want to get is a level-headed, or even a playmaker. If you're at the bottom of the match and you get a playmaker, it's like, it's fully an insult. It's no different than like a teabag. Like it's just insult to injury. It just adds toxicity. I don't feel any better when I get commended when I'm on the top, and when I'm on the bottom, it feels really terrible to get a commendation. You know what I mean? Or another thing they could do is just lock commendations for people on the bottom half of the board. So it's like if you didn't earn a top spot, you don't even qualify for a commendation because it's just going to be taken, in my opinion, by most players as an insult. And if Bungie says that's not how it's being used, then they're naive to how it's being used. Because I will constantly see players at the bottom of the match get like more commendations than anyone on the board, especially if they've done really, really badly. You know what I mean? And there's only one reason for that to be. It's not niceness. You know what I mean? Through which that's happening. So I would like to see maybe just lock it out. Like you can't get a commendation unless you were the top player or at least the top 60%. Because then it doesn't feel so bad. It's like if you play well and they're sending you an insulting commendation, then it's like, fuck off. You know what I mean? When you have a rough day, it makes it worse. And I don't see why you would want the game to make you feel worse when you've had a rough day. You know what I mean? Like there's no positive benefit to the game to have that in there. So I wish they would do something about that. Cheaters. So you want to talk about sandbox issues. I'll get to cheaters. Actually, I'm a little premature here. I just scrolled down and saw that. And it was like, oh yeah, I want to talk about that. We'll talk about that more. Okay. They're doing a lot of things to focus on headshots. And they talked a lot about dying too fast, which is an issue. Honestly, I think the biggest issue with that has just been subs. Just fucking nerf subs. Because there'll be pretty much anything else you can deal with. Subs, there's just, you get into a match with like a sub machine gun user who never misses, and you're getting flinched like crazy. They've got macros so that they're bobble walking. No amount of sliding or moving or flinching is going to make them miss a shot, and they're going to drop you in about the same amount of time it takes to drop you in a sniper when you're actually aiming the sniper rifle, right? So people don't realize this. My last video talks about this a lot. Snipers actually have a TTK. It's not 0 because you have to ADS and aim. And aim time is about 400 milliseconds. ADS time is about 200 milliseconds. So you're looking at a 600 millisecond TTK realistically to use a sniper effectively. Now, yeah, you can kind of quick zoom gut shot it and pray, but that's not going to be something that's going to work consistently. So with a submachine gun, they can just open up no scope on you in the body and then ADS at some point during that. And if they get 60% of their rounds into you, you're dead. And even if they go up to 0.8 seconds, like you're getting flinched so much that it's unlikely that you're going to be able to take them out before they drop you, right? So just nerf that one mechanic, honestly, and I think like a lot of your issues will go away. Blinting, I think they called it, with bows is maybe another issue. Bows in general just need to be nerfed also. So blimp subs and bows. Nerf subs and bows. And I think you'll resolve a lot of the issues. I don't know that I like the changes they've made to snipers and bows in terms of reducing the aim assist. Because, in my opinion, the biggest issue with players that you run up against is the players that never miss. And I think that these players are highly suspect. But aimbots are not going to be affected by these nerfs. Only human players are going to be affected by these nerfs. And so I don't know how much of a difference. A lot of these changes, even increasing base life and increasing focus on headshots, gut shots are the only way that we have as human players to check cheaters. And the reason is time. I don't think Bungie considers time as much as they should when regard to accuracy. A lot of times when a player has high accuracy, the issue is not an accuracy, right? I was able to get my sniper accuracy up to 80% by only pulling the trigger when I was on the head, right? My KD dropped to like 0.2, right? Because I was making non-ideal decisions. I was making stupid decisions with regard to time management. There was scenarios where I should have been putting in a quick body because they were moving fast. It was better for me to get a quick body and a follow-up, right, than to commit 100% of the headshot. That is a decision that human players have to make. A strategic decision where sometimes the higher skill player will intentionally and correctly choose a body shot, right? Headshots are not always a higher marker of skill. What headshots often are, in some cases, often are when it comes to like cheating, are an indication of not having to compromise on time. If I don't have to compromise on time, then it's an easy decision. Go for the headshot every single time. So a lot of times when someone has high accuracy, it's not because they are better able to hit headshots. It's because they don't have a time penalty to do so. So think about that. If I don't have to pay any extra milliseconds to line up the headshot, then I'm always going to take the headshot. So the players who have 95% accuracy, you know what I mean? Think about that. They never, ever, ever felt that it was a better strategy to do a body and a quick follow. They were 100% confident that they would get that headshot in before they lost the match or before they got flinched or before the enemy got to cover. It's about time. It's about time. Accuracy is about time, not necessarily directly related to skill. And time management is related to skill. So understanding when to go for a body over a headshot is the skill, right? So a lot of their changes, I think, are going to favor cheaters because cheaters are the only ones who have the luxury of time when it comes to lining up headshots. So a lot of these changes, reducing aim assist and increasing focusing on headshots, is going to benefit cheaters. Now, That said, if they're accompanying these changes with bans to cheaters, then it's awesome. And one thing I have noticed in recent weeks is a dramatic reduction in what I would say are 100% aimbot players. Players that I encounter them, and every engagement, they are landing every shot. Doesn't matter how much acceleration is in my motion, how much speed, how much variation is in my motion, they're landing every headshot, right? And these are players that I always find suspect. It's one thing to have 100% accuracy, but to be able to have that accuracy no matter how much you're getting flinched and no matter how fast the enemy's moving, and no matter how little time you've had from when the enemy player has entered their field of view and entered line of sight, that's when you start to get issues. And I've seen players like that pretty intensely in the beginning of this year. Like basically almost every other match, there's like somebody who doesn't miss ever. And lately that has gone down. And I've also been receiving some notifications like the player that you reported has been, dealt with. So I think that there have been some ban waves. And I think they've reduced the cheater pool. If they can do that reliably and consistently and address the cheater issue, then these are good changes. If they aren't going to address the cheater issue, then they'll have to let us address the cheater issue. And the only way they can do that is give us some gut shot weapons. So if you're not going to deal with the cheaters, give us some gut shot weapons, right? And by the way, again, submachine guns have a lower TTK than a sniper in terms of practical TTK, the way that they were balanced before, because you don't have to fucking aim them, and aim time is a thing. So something to keep in mind. Subs needed to be nerfed. Bows needed to be nerfed, right? I don't think that accuracy cone needed to be nerfed. I think the damage needed to be nerfed for bows. Bows need to function like a 120 hand cannon, probably, and not like consistently 2-tap. You know what I mean? It's not about making it harder for bows to hit headshots. It's about making them not 2-tap you. Like you shouldn't be able to consistently 2-peek with a bow. I don't know. Outlier protection matchmaking. I think that's awesome. One thing I hate about Overwatch is it's like I haven't played Overwatch for years, but it's like every single match is sweaty as hell. It's neck and neck. And it gets too stressful, and eventually you're just like, fuck it, dude. Like I get enough stress in my day job. Like if it's too sweaty, one of the issues that you have in Overwatch is like you'll play up to a certain skill level and then you'll get leveled up into a higher skill level, and then suddenly the entire game changes. And now everything that you've learned in the lower level doesn't work at the higher level. So you want to be exposed to the higher level players. But you also want to be exposed to matches that you can win, right? So I like it when it's a little bit looser, when you don't have crazy outliers, right? You can do some fun, you can have some fun showy moments where you 1v3'd or 1v4'd or whatever the fuck, right? But then you have some moments where you have as a player on the board where, okay, now my challenge is to take this fucking guy out. You know what I mean? What's he doing that's making him beat me consistently, right? So I think that's important. I like this idea. I think that's basically it. I mean, there's a lot more here. I had other thoughts, but that's kind of like the main stuff I wanted to focus on. A big thank you to Bungie, because making PvP more rewarding, making it like fun, focusing on, taking out some of the cheaters, trying to make sure that this is something where you can learn from your mistakes, things like that. I think that's huge. That's it, guys. Side note. Sorry. Can we get a no-scope reticle on snipers, please? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that would help us counter cheaters, right? Because then you can sort of line up your shot, quick ADS, and shoot. It's still a skill thing. I hate that there's no reticle on snipers. If they want to make us more competitive against cheaters, they need to be doing things that can reduce the latency for humans, and that ideally would increase the minimum latency for cheaters. So another thing that I would love to see, by the way, is like a minimum latency on LOS break. I'm sure their system can't tell when we've broken ADS, especially with all the wall hack mechanics that they have in game. So they have, what is it? The not faux tracer, but the knucklehead radar. If once you've tagged someone, you can see them behind walls. I think the bow gives you wall hacks, right? So there's all these mechanics that give you wall hacks, and you have to keep track of that. And I'm sure doing like LOS checking with everyone in game. But you know, like World of Warcraft back in the day, there was a lot of LOS based stuff. You know, because you're elevated above your players, so the game had to keep track of when your player could see other players, and they did it just fine. I'm sure Bungie could put in some LOS tracking, but I think that it would be nice to be able to track minimum latency from LOS. Like if you acquire LOS with a player and you fire a shot in less than 200 milliseconds, that should be a big red flag. And the thing about it is it may not necessarily be a dead ringer for this guy's cheating 100% of the time, because sometimes you can kind of pre-fire, you can get lucky, stuff like that. But when they're consistently doing it over time, or another thing you can do is you can do like a soft penalty. So what I think would be interesting is instead don't use this as a ban metric. I've said this before as well. I don't necessarily mind when players have 100% accuracy. What really bothers me is that they don't have to deal with time. Which, by the way, again, as I've discussed, is kind of why they have 100% accuracy, because there's no time penalty. But what really gets you is the time, the lack of time penalty for these players. So it would be nice if there was a minimum amount of time, and if you fire the shot in less than that time, then it doesn't insta-kill, or there's a delay. Like the idea is like you can still fire and forget. You don't have to hold it on or anything like that. But like you fire the shot, and the enemy player basically like still has to be in LOS after like 200 milliseconds, and then maybe it'll land, or maybe it does reduced damage, or maybe it just throws the bullet out and says, "Look, I don't think this fire was possible," and it throws it out. Now you may have like a top 0.1% of players that are human players that occasionally lose a shot to this. I think that's something that I'd be willing to pay, even if I was like in that and it was like cost me a match, just to have to not ever have to fight cheaters, right? Like that's a penalty I'd be willing to pay. And maybe you don't have to do it every time. Like it's like the system the server keeps track of like, okay, you've had your last 5 shots were hit in less than 200 milliseconds from you know, line of sight. So your next 5 shots that happen in the same, like under 200 milliseconds, are going to get tossed out, right? And probably not 5 and 5. Maybe it's like, you know, every other one, or it's like, you know, you do it once, you're forgiven. Like it's like within 5 minutes, if you have a shot that's under 200 milliseconds, you know, then it'll accept it. But if you have like 2 or 3 within 5 minutes, then it bans any other shots within that time. So as long as you're longer than 200 milliseconds from LOS break, your shots still land just fine. But it'll toss out bullets or reduce damage on bullets. I think that's probably the best, fairest way. It's like it reduces it from a headshot to a body shot, basically, in terms of the amount of damage it does if you connected it in less than 200 milliseconds from LOS. So I think that'd be an interesting mechanic. And the idea is just to make cheaters something we can deal with, because we're never going to get rid of them completely. And especially with AI coming, a lot of people are probably, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of like students are training AI models on games just to sort of prove something, and then sending those into the sandbox, right? And that's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, right? We're going to have AI players that aren't necessarily cheating in the traditional sense. It's just not a human playing. You know what I mean? So I think that we're going to have to accept that and find ways to make it so that humans can still compete. And I think having a minimum shot time from LOS is one of the best ways to make it still playable, even though you're going to have to deal with AI in the sandbox, right? So basically just kind of lower the skill cap, force the skill cap down to like the top 0.1% of players. And then that's the hardest that you as a human player have to deal with. If you can beat that consistently, then, you know, especially with team play and with map awareness and stuff like that, then you can still do really, really well, right? That's the idea. Anyway, that's it, guys. Really interesting patch notes. I'm really glad to see Bungie taking some action on PvP. Huge for players like me who really only play the game for PvP and find it a rich experience to be able to get more rewarding gameplay and get some support. I'd love to see a solo queue mode that is competitive, cheater-free, though. But Rumble was at least for a long time, pretty filled with players that never missed. Again, highly suspect in my opinion. We'll see. But that's it, guys. Peace out.